So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea today is for countries to come together to create the environment that enables every sector of industry to take the action required. We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
By 1957, the Rothschilds had amassed so much wealth that they bequeathed Waddesdon to the National Trust. Of course, the house remains under the watchful eye of the Rothschilds to this day, and as one viewer commented, they no longer have to pay any taxes on it because it is in the National Trust. But there's a much better way to calculate the unimaginable wealth of the Rothschilds, simply by using history. Now, we know one of the most astonishing stories of Rothschild wealth revolves around the Battle of Waterloo, in which Nathan Rothschild used his inside knowledge of the outcome and his faster horses and couriers to play the market by getting the results of the battle before anyone else knew the outcome. And I'm reading this article from darkpolitrix.com. As many of you know, Nathan Rothschild caused a sell-off in bonds and gave all the traders who looked to him for guidance the impression that the French had won at Waterloo. The other traders also rushed to sell their bonds, causing a 95% decline in their original worth. And once the bottom had dropped out, Nathan Rothschild then rebought as many bonds back as he could at hugely discounted prices, and in doing so he multiplied his wealth 20 times in just 3 days of trading. Now, that history was shared in the 1934 Hollywood movie, The House of Rothschild, which was backed by the Rothschild family.
Buy. Yes, buy. Have you had any news? What do you think about this rumor?
I don't listen to rumors, Mr. Baring.
You hear what they say? Wellington defeated. You mind telling me what you're going to do?
I have no objection to all London knowing what I'm going to do. I'm buying.
So that very important history is on the record. I calculated 8% interest as a compounding annual rate of return for the Rothschilds, given that the family not only can move markets but manipulates and has been able to manipulate markets for decade after decade. An 8% return is very conservative. However, it's also tangible and quantifiable. You see, by buying up all of the bonds after the Battle of Waterloo, Nathan Rothschild became the single largest debtor to the English government, which ultimately gave him control over the Bank of England. English bonds were a debt guaranteed by future tax revenue of the English government. Therefore, the taxes the citizens paid were going to pay the 8% interest that the English government had to pay to borrow the money. So, the Battle of Waterloo occurred in 1815. So let's just round up the quote-unquote control of the Bank of England by the Rothschilds to 1817, since we're in the year 2017, giving us a nice round number of 200 years to work with. And we're going to do the math in just a second, but I want to give you something else that's very quantifiable. Instead of guessing what the net worth of the Rothschilds might have been around 1817, I found this article from the Days of Noah, the Rothschild family from 1800 to 1818, the plan to control the world. Now fast forward through all the intrigue and the gold trading for kings to 1815, the year Nathan Mayer Rothschild made his famous statement, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply." Now, he would also go on to brag that in the 17 years he had been in England, he had increased the £20,000 stake given to him by his father 2,500 times to £50 million. Now remember, that's 1815. Let's just bump it up to 1817, and we'll keep the other four Rothschild brothers out of the conversation, each of whom were making separate fortunes of their own in different areas of the world. So let's go over to the compound interest calculator, and let's just assume for the sake of argument that Lord Rothschild was using puffery or braggery when he said he was worth 50 million, and let's just give him credit for 10 million, and see what happens with the magic of compound interest and that already locked in annual interest rate that they were guaranteed by the Bank of England of 8%. 10 million. Length of time in years you plan to save. Well, I think the Rothschilds would probably sock that away for, say, 200 years. At an annual rate of interest of 8%, in 200 years you will have 48,389,495,849,000. That's really chump change to the Rothschilds. Why don't we take him at his word and check out what 50 million is worth over 200 years. Change that to a 5. That's 50 million invested over 200 years at an annual interest rate of 8%. In 200 years, they would have achieved $241 trillion in wealth. And of course, that doesn't account for any gold and silver market manipulation. It doesn't account for any of their other investments. And it certainly doesn't account for any additional wealth they were able to build when they implemented the central bank in the United States, the Federal Reserve, in 1913. This is just the money Lord Rothschild claimed that he was worth in 1815. And of course, we started this calculation in 1817 just to give us a nice round number of 200 years to work with. So perhaps now you can understand why, by some estimates, the Rothschild family is worth more than $500 trillion. And the next time you find yourself at a dinner party or by the workplace water cooler and somebody wants to tell you about the world's richest man and mentions Jeff Bezos, who made his $100 billion just over the last 20 years, you may just want to remind them about the history of the Rothschilds, the manipulation of financial markets for more than 200 years, and a little something called compounding interest.
So, how do we do it? First, how do we get the private sector all pulling in the same direction? After nearly 2 years now of consultation, CEOs have told me that we need to bring together global industries to map out, in very practical terms, what it will take to make the transition. We know from the pandemic that the private sector can speed up timelines dramatically when everyone agrees on the urgency and the direction. So each sector needs a clear strategy to speed up the process of getting innovations to market. Second, who pays and how? We need to align private investment behind these industry strategies to help finance the transition efforts, which means building the confidence of investors so that the financial risk is reduced. Crucially, investment is needed to help transition from coal to clean energy. If we can develop a pipeline of many more sustainable and bankable projects at a sufficient scale, it will attract greater investment. Third, which switches do we flick to enable these objectives? More than 300 of the world's leading CEOs and institutional investors have told me that alongside the promises countries have made, their nationally determined contributions, they need clear market signals, agreed globally, so that they have the confidence to invest without the goalposts suddenly moving. This is the framework I've offered in the Terracotta Roadmap, created by my Sustainable Markets Initiative, with nearly 100 specific actions for acceleration. Together, we are working to drive trillions of dollars in support of transition across 10 of the most emitting and polluting industries. They include energy, agriculture, transportation, health systems, and fashion. The reality of today's global supply chains means that industry transition will affect every country and every producer in the world. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the private sector is ready to play its part and to work with governments to find a way forward. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, many of your countries I know are already feeling the devastating impact of climate change through ever-increasing droughts, mudslides, floods, hurricanes, cyclones and wildfires, as we've just seen on that terrifying film. Any leader who has had to confront such life-threatening challenges knows that the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of prevention. So I can only urge you, as the world's decision makers, to find practical ways of overcoming differences so we can all get down to work together to rescue this precious planet and save the threatened future of our young people.
So, Prince Charles's coat of arms represents the red dragon. In Revelation 13:1, and the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns, 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the dragon gave him his power, and his throne, and great authority. Now, of significance to that is that at his coronation in 1969, and we're talking about Prince Charles, the father,
God bless the Prince of Wales, they sang. Those mighty Welsh voices bore the message of the people who were to welcome Prince Charles as their own. This young man was ready to take up his royal office to serve the proud race who opened their hearts to both him and his mother, the Queen, on this historic July the 1st.
Modrwy air ar ei fys.
The gold ring,
A hefyd drwy dros glwyddo gwiale nawr i'w law.
the gold rod,
Fel y bo iddo newyddiannol ac
and the mantle. In giving to the prince these insignias of office, the Queen could not conceal the gentle touch of a mother, despite the formal text of the letters patent, which proclaimed that Charles, Philip, Arthur, George may have the name, style, title, state, dignity and honour of the Principality of Wales and Earldom of Chester. The sword about his waist, the coronet upon his head, the gold rod in his hand, and the silk velvet ermine mantle upon his shoulders, he bore with great fortitude the emotion that the coming moments brought.
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship, and faith and truth I will bear unto thee, to live and die against all manner of folks.
And so Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh took their son, the Prince of Wales, to greet and be greeted by the people of the great race he had sworn to serve and protect.
he sat on a chair with a large red dragon emblazoned on it. During the ceremony, his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, said, "This dragon gives you your power, your throne, and your own authority." His response to her was, and I quote, "I am now your liege man and worthy of your earthly worship." Liege is an Old English word meaning lord, meaning I am now your lord man and worthy of your earthly worship. And also, as you can see here, the crest of the Knights Templar is showing the same symbols as did Prince Charles when he received this coronation. So, the origin and meaning of the red dragon symbol goes beyond the coat of arms. You see it here in the flag of Wales, the red dragon, and that means the place of the strangers or foreigners. That is, as in the tribe of Dan, importing themselves to Wales.
We begin with big breaking news. It's official. Kanye West turning Hollywood and the liberal music world upside down, pledging his full-throated support and love for President Trump. The rapper tweeting, "You don't have to agree with Trump, but the mob can't make me not love him. We are both dragon energy. He is my brother. I love everyone. I don't agree with everything anyone does. That's what makes us individuals, and we have the right to independent thought." He also tweeted a selfie and a MAGA hat. Well, as you can imagine, his support is appreciated by the president.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
It's the fast food feast the whole country is talking about, served by President Trump at the White House for the national champion Clemson University football team.
We have pizzas, we have 300 hamburgers, many French fries.
Piled high on silver platters in the East Room was fast food from 3 iconic American companies, Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's. At another table, Domino's Pizza and French fries served in paper cups with the presidential seal. This Clemson player couldn't believe it.
The rumors were true.
This player loaded up all the goodies he could carry. The McDonald's order of all those Big Macs and filet of fish was taken by this McDonald's just blocks from the White House.
The Top Trumps Happy Meal is now at McDonald's. The Happies are battling it out. The Lions come out on top. But the game isn't over yet. Who'll win this round? Learn about the different animals with the Top Trumps Happy Meal at McDonald's. Some fun, some food, it's all inside this Happy Meal.
Ready, Toothless? Let's go!
With the good things in your Happy Meal, you'll have the power to soar. Let your imagination take flight with a toy from the new DreamWorks movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2, rated PG. Now in your McDonald's Happy Meal.
I hate to say this, Jim. Do you want to say something? You do everything. This was just set up to be a lunch. 2 people that I like, and I guess they like me.
You know I love you.
But I don't want to put you in that spot. But.
No, I'm standing in that spot. I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here. I love this guy right here.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
And then you see it on the airplane of Wales, the same red dragon. And then we see it in the 1953 Royal Badge of Wales. And notice that there is a circle around the dragon that gives the letters Y, Dreg, Gach, Didri, Situin. And it means the red dragon should go forward. This is the unofficial Welsh national motto. Sometimes it is described as the red dragon will rise again, or the red dragon will lead the way. And I believe this is all symbolic of what is to come in the time of tribulation with the Antichrist.
Into the computer and their motion is not there. As an animation director, motion capture is amazing because it gives us the same creative control over camera and lens choices and movement that a live action director would have.
From across South Africa, they come to mourn and honour the man who played a pivotal role in the fight against apartheid.
It's a dark day to us as South African because he's the light and the icon of this country.
He used to be a father to us. His wife used to be a mother to us.
We raise our hands and we say, we will be free!
Archbishop Desmond Tutu, nicknamed affectionately as the Arch, held a unique place in South Africa's history. He was one of the most outspoken critics of the brutal oppression of the country's black majority, becoming a moral compass as he led the struggle for freedom and justice.
I can say he was the last man standing. And now, now that he's gone, I don't know, because the people like him, with his beliefs, they are no longer there.
The city of Cape Town was lit up to honour the Archbishop in his iconic colour.
Well, we're really glad that you came and you brought a musical instrument, and you are Stevie Wonder. Are you game for a musical tribute?
Well, you know what? I surely can't sing, one of Prince's songs. I can just do a little bit, maybe. Purple rain, rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple.
And the winner of a brand new '84 Oscar is...
The winner is Prince for Purple Rain.
Thank you very much. This is Lisa, and this is Wendy. Hold it. This is very unbelievable. I could have never imagined this in my wildest dreams, and I would like to thank the Academy, Mr. Albert Magnoli, my manager Stephen, Bob, Joe, Bobby, Mark, and Matt, who couldn't be with us today, and most of all, God. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu was one of our nation's finest patriots. He was a man of unwavering courage, of principled conviction, and whose life was spent in the service of others.
Tributes have been pouring in from around the world, including from the Pope and the Queen. I remember with fondness my meetings with him and his great warmth and humour, she said. Former US President Barack Obama calling him his mentor. He never lost his impish sense of humour and willingness to find humanity in his adversaries. And Michelle and I will miss him dearly. Remembered for the joy and compassion that he brought to South Africa's long fight for freedom.
It offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition. So, how do we do it?
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. It will not happen.
Establishment has a lot of, they will stop at nothing to complete their toolkit of control. Right? So one of the things that has been missing from the toolkit of total control has been quarantines and curfews, right? Mm-hmm. So now, welcome to the new world in America, where to get on a bus, to go through a subway station, if you think that the procedures at the TSA are onerous, right? Guess this is coming to a bus depot near you. It's a more invasive way, and the ruling class needs this because, let me say, if the ruling class ever saw wide-scale civil unrest, you'd see an Ebola outbreak in America right away.
Okay, so this is, what you see is that Ebola is
another tool in the toolbox of the ruling class control. Yeah,
to keep down
absolutely,
repression.
positively, 100%. This is a tool.
Right.
Ebola doesn't just magically start spreading, and then we have this doctors that come back here. The white people, of course, live You know, the 2 whites who got it or survived. All the black people that get it die. Right? It's very possible that these one of these NGOs over there is going around with a veil of Ebola or spreading it from a small plane onto villages. The point is to get hundreds of thousands of people infected with it and create the next phase of control. Now, one of the things I'd like to show to back up my my claims here. Here's a document from the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation right there. You can zoom in on that where my finger is. It's called Scenarios for the Future International Development, the Rockefeller Foundation. All right? Okay, let's take a look at what they're saying here. This is something like a 50, 60-page document. I'd like you to go to page 18, if you can look at this up on the internet, but I'll read it off to you. It's called lockstep, lockstep. And this is a phrase that I used right after 2001 when I saw the entire system of the United States, including the population, were in lockstep. So the Congress went along, and yes, it was Osama bin Laden, and the people waved their flag and said, I hate, 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 and everything was in lockstep. Well, in 2010, they published this, Rockefeller Foundation, and here's what they're saying. They're saying that they call it a scenario. These are scenario narratives, and they speak about it in the past tense. So they put out this scenario, lockstep. A world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Okay, I'll read a little bit of it. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years, nobody was anticipating a pandemic, finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain originating from wild geese, they use some scenario, but this is Ebola they're talking about. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda. Just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance because the intelligence agencies don't know how to do these narratives. They need help. So these think tanks, they come up with these like Rand Corporation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are think tanks of death. They're think tanks. They're not there to find great ways to help people. Right? Okay. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt. Which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, right? Debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Well, of course they want tourism stopped because they're not in the tourism business. And they want you at home in your house in front of the TV. Then they got you. Because once you watch the TV, they own your soul. Even locally.
Wait a second, we're on television.
I mean commercial television, let's say. National. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices sat empty for months. Okay, so I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010. The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers in Africa died. Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire.
It sounds like the opening monologue of a disaster movie, right?
Exactly. Now listen, here's the good stuff now. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. Now here's this one. I love this one. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging, in quotation marks, strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So they're saying, that...
No, keep going.
It proved deadly in its leniency. So they should have been tougher, right? Accelerating the spread of the virus, not just within the United States, but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China, in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of virus far earlier than in other countries. So the message is here is we have to look towards the Chinese, the oppressive totalitarian Chinese regime as an example of what we need to be doing here. And of course, the ruling class here loves the Chinese regime because they have demonstrated to the ruling class the most efficient form of capitalism, which is authoritarian capitalism. So we have capitalism, but unfortunately we have this like veil.
I get it.
We have this veil of democracy.
This is very interesting. This is continue on.
Okay. Okay. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their muscles, flexed their authority, and imposed airtight rules and restrictions. You can see the agenda.
Go.
Okay. From the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces like
that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, but soon it's going to be like body. You know,
it'll be at the subway.
Yeah, well,
is that what you're saying? We'll be going through this in the subway, get on buses and the subway,
absolutely,
things like that.
And what this means though is don't think about having a cigarette, a joint on you, or I mean, basically you can't. This is a dragnet for everything. So, if in order for you,
in other words, just like with stop and frisk, this is the ultimate stop and frisk.
This is the ultimate cavity stop and frisk, cavity search kind of thing. All right. So during the pandemic, national leaders were there, flex their authority. Now there's some good stuff. Listen to this. And even supermarkets, they want body checks at supermarkets. Okay, so basically what they're saying is they're building a system where every move you make, you got to go through them.
You can't get food. What happens if you go to the farmer's market?
Here's the good stuff now. I mean, it just keeps getting better. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck.
Tell me, is this God's reward for the devoted and the foolish?
You are no fool, Gabriel.
I am no longer Gabriel, woman. I am the dragon, Dracul. I am the Prince of Darkness. I am and will be forever a thorn in his side. That is my vengeance.
In the Department of Defense, honorary awards are given to soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and DoD civilians who perform in an outstanding manner and exhibit traits and qualities such as selfless service and dedication to the mission that enable the joint force to complete their mission and objectives in all environments. Each military branch has its own prestigious awards and time-honored traditions for recognizing excellence in service. The Chemical Corps Regimental Association recognizes Dragon soldiers and civilians who have demonstrated the highest standard of integrity and moral character, an outstanding degree of professional competence, and have contributed to the promotion of the Chemical Corps in numerous ways over the course of their career. At this time, the Deputy Joint Program Executive Officer for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defense, Mr. Dan McCormick, will present Mr. Jack Wilson with the Honorable Order of the Dragon on behalf of the Chief of Chemical and Commandant of the U.S. Army Seaburn School, Brigadier General Darrell Hood. To all Dragon soldiers, greetings. Know ye that there appeared before the Chief of the Chemical a likely candidate for the Honorable Order of the Dragon. Be it known by all chemical soldiers that Jack Wilson has been accepted into the Order of the Dragon and is due all rights and privileges from this day forth. Be it further known that the Chief of the Chemical Corps confers upon this individual the Medal of the Order.
The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
There are bloodlines that the Luciferian elite want to protect, and there are bloodlines that they want to destroy. The divine right to rule has been passed down through millennium. A seed line that winds its way to the modern monarchs, royal families, prime ministers, popes, and presidents.
And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment. They called his name Esau.
The vast majority of these people,
the descendants, the bloodline descendants of these beings, rule the world today,
are not only related,
the enmity between the sea lions,
but have Rh-negative blood.
Maintain humanity under 500 million.
Take the high-tech companies of the modern world. Okay, but why have these monolithic corporations that involve themselves purely in high science and technology using symbols from the scriptures, symbols from the ancient world, like the forbidden fruit?
Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it.
The divine right to rule.
Then Jesus said, He who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Something about genetics that is connected to the forbidden fruit. There's some hidden knowledge. Michelangelo, like many of the artists, is showing here the androgynous serpent to be a liberating factor. Eve is in a recumbent or supine or submissive position. And the serpent and the tree is attempting to awaken Eve.
Many have concluded that Freemasonry's own description of itself is the best.
Albert Pike.
A peculiar system of morality veiled in allegory.
Adam Weishaupt.
And illustrated by symbols. Today, we celebrate Freemasonry, its past, present, and future.
Manly P. Hall.
And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
Native peoples were not the first to inhabit North America.
So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen.
Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
And Rh-negative blood is one of the most unusual blood types.
Then the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
The demon was huge, and it came to me, and it was trying to have sex with me.
And the divine right to rule.
We therefore invite Mr. Sayer, Master of the Apple Tree Tavern, to take the chair as our first Grand Master.
And the divine right to rule.
And the divine right to rule. And the divine right to rule.
Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump, we're all cut from the same cloth.
Alexander the Great, his mother, she worshipped in a temple where they revered serpents.
Who knew? You and Dick Cheney cousins?
You know, listen, I don't think I'm going to the family reunion. I don't know how I'll be greeted. But no, you know, these folks have been doing all these genealogies on me, and
right.
You know, they've found all sorts of strange connections.
This got me. What did you make of that story? For those who don't know this, so Lynn Cheney, the vice president's wife, has been doing some genealogy connected to her latest book, and lo and behold, way back, 8 generations ago? 8 generations or you something. And Mr. Cheney apparently have some distant relative. What did you make of that story when it came?
You know, I actually knew about it because somebody had done some genealogy before, and they had sent it to me, this long sheet, and you know, had all these famous names, you know, Mark Twain and this and that and the other, and then Dick Cheney, and I took a pause.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, William Howard Taft, and President Barack Obama. One young girl traced them all back to one common ancestor.
They're all cousins and all grandsons of John Lackland.
It's the first family tree of its kind. Pouring through more than 500,000 names for months, 12-year-old Bridge Ann d'Avignon discovered that all the U.S. presidents, except Martin Van Buren, are related to the former King of England, John Lackland Plantagenet, signer of the Magna Carta in 1215.
Together, you shall spread light to future generations.
She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man.
They also represent three very important elements. They are wisdom, strength, and beauty.
Because it was never forgotten by the sons of the serpent that when they went to Atlantis, the most responsive ones were the females, and they were more like the chosen ones. And it is from this era of the ancient world in the pre-Diluvian age that we have the cult of the priestess.
Marina Abramovich.
We have the rise of the great matriarchies.
Helena Blavatsky. Alice Bailey.
I bring it all together. I'm the beautiful one. I bring it all together beautifully.
I want to thank you to all the male feminists that came today. You guys are so important.
And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they showed.
It means so much to us. And the respect that you have for women, because, you know, we made y'all motherfuckers.
The 2018 American Music Awards opened with a performance from Taylor Swift. So the influential pop star proceeds to sing about how witches and women are being persecuted. So light me up, light me up, light me up. Go ahead and light me up. This line where she sings light me up has a double meaning. The first meaning refers to a witch being burned at the stake, basically saying, I'm guilty as charged, so light me up. The second and more esoteric meaning becomes clear as she continues to repeat the phrase, light me up, light me up, light me up. And then this giant serpent with glowing eyes emerges from the stage. Now she is making a reference to Eve and the forbidden fruit. After all, the knowledge of good and evil is described as light by Luciferians and Illuminists. The serpent is also known as the light bearer, Lucifer, the morning star. Again, this is the externalization of the hierarchy, a satanic invocation where the covens of the cobra and the brotherhoods of the serpent gather to publicly celebrate rebellion against our Creator and our subsequent fall from grace. As you can see, what used to be done in the shadows of the windowless stone lodge is now being done in front of the masses for all to see.
Prince William is back at his royal duties. The Duke of Cambridge stepped out on Wednesday to host an investiture ceremony at Windsor Castle, where he awarded medals to recipients being honored. Among those being honored was Sir Clive Lloyd, who was awarded a knighthood for his services to cricket, according to the palace. Fellow cricket player Captain Owen Morgan was also awarded for the sport with a CBE. Others who were honored included rugby player Kevin Sinfield, snooker champion Rhian Avis, former jockey Ron Atkins, and fitness guru Derek Evans. Investitures are either hosted by Queen Elizabeth or another royal family member on her behalf. The event comes after stunning new photos were recently released for William's wife Kate Middleton's 40th birthday. The Duchess of Cambridge looks stunning in the snaps, which made her look regal. In one, she wears a flowing white gown with bowed sleeves and wears her hair long and loose. And in another, she dons a vibrant red one-shoulder gown paired with the same flowing tresses and simple and classic makeup. William and Kate have been attending more royal engagements as of late. Access Hollywood recently spoke with DailyMail.com's Charlie Langston about how the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are really stepping up to the plate and getting ready to one day take the throne.
Kate and William are really kind of stepping up to the plate as far as leading the monarchy. Now, William is not the next in line to the throne. His father, Prince Charles, is going to be the next monarch in the United Kingdom. However, William and Kate are very much already in that kind of waiting in the wings role, where they are both very much aware that they will be on the throne probably, not too far in the future. I think they both know that Prince Charles is not a young spring chicken. He's not the age that Elizabeth was when she became queen. And I don't think anyone is expecting Prince Charles to sit on the throne for decades and decades to come. He will absolutely take on the role because he has been waiting his entire life to become king. But I think that his reign, in comparison with the Queen's, will be very short-lived. William and Kate are already not acting as though they are already the leaders of the monarchy, but they are taking on a huge amount of responsibility, not just in terms of public engagements, but also in terms of the way in which the monarchy is run. They're making small but very important changes, opening up the monarchy to a more modern point of view, not perhaps in a way that is noticeable every single day, but bit by bit, they have kind of helped the monarchy to evolve, to kind of embrace new traditions, and to kind of maintain the important heritage of the past, while also kind of saying, okay, a few of the things that we used to do are seen as being very stuffy. They are very stuffy. Here are ways where we can kind of maintain the tradition behind these things without making it appear as though we are completely ignorant to what the rest of the world is doing and how they're living.
As you look in detail now at the seal of Prince Charles, the father, here's what you see in detail. But let's first look at the text, Revelations 12:3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And then Revelation 13:1. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were the 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were those of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And so as you look at Prince Charles, the father, his seal, his coat of arms, you'll notice that the crown actually is shown here in 7 places, and they're all numbered. You see it in the lion figure. You see it above that represents the sun, Prince William. You see the crown of the face. You see the crown on the unicorn. You see the crown in the center of the shield, and you see 2 more crowns below. There are your 7 heads with 7 crowns. Also, we discussed how in this text that the beast would resemble a leopard, and which this does by its length and its thinness as compared to a lion. It has the feet of a bear, and if you look at the feet, those are bare feet, and it has the mouth as a lion, and it certainly has a lion's mouth. So let's focus on the lion, leopard, bear beast on the left. Notice there are 3 parallel horns on his neck, which are, in a manner of speaking, plucked out by the roots, which means turned upside down. Then come to the center photo. The helm, which is the face, has 7 curved bars or horns. These 7 horns, along with the 3 horns from the eldest son, lion, at the top, make a total of 10 horns in the head region. And from Daniel 7 verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So as you can see in the first 2 photos, we have numbered the 3 additional horns to the 7 that already existed in the previous slide. Now, let's take a look at the eyes of a man in the horn. Over on the next photo is the unicorn. In heraldry, the unicorn's eyes are round and black. There are no visible eye whites. Queen Elizabeth's heraldic unicorn is depicted just like that, no visible eye whites. But Charles's design, here shown, has the eyes shaped more like those of a human, with noticeable eye whites. Daniel 7:8. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man. Also in heraldry, this unicorn represents not only Scotland, but also a counterfeit Christ. Let's take it further. The unicorn of the prince. The constellation Monoceros, which is the unicorn, is in the winter's great triangle, as you see above in the skies, formed by the bright stars Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Procyon. Monoceros is on the celestial equator between Orion, which is where God comes through, and Hydra, which is where the dragon is. And it contains exactly 66 naked eye stars. Monoceros forms the square and the compasses. The square is at 90 degrees and the compass is at 55 degrees. In ancient Egypt, the plumb rule was called a merket. The merket was used in conjunction with a plumb line to measure the positions of stars and their corresponding positions on the ground in Egypt. Our winter sky is dominated by Orion, but the creature that is following him, tracking his every movement across the celestial sphere, mimicking him, is Monoceros, the unicorn. And who does the unicorn represent? Prince Charles and Prince William. In the photo to the left, which is a hieroglyph, the horn of Monoceros points to the silver gate of man, and Enki, who is in this hieroglyph, is stepping in the direction of where the unicorn horn is pointing, and you see his foot on top of the unicorn horn, and he has a bird in his hand. The bird is the constellation Corvus, Latin for raven or crow. It sits on the tail of Hydra, the sea dragon, as you can see above, and it includes 11 stars visible to the naked eye. It belonged to Apollo, that is the bird. Apollo, the god of light, which the Bible calls Apollyon, the destroyer. Enki is the one of the 4 gods known as the Anunnaki, who were Sumerians. Anunnaki were associated with the Nephilim giants of the Bible. And then, up above, his left foot is on the horn of the unicorn, as if he is rising up from the unicorn out of the waters. The ancients believed that the Milky Way was the celestial river in the heavens, and Monoceros is on the celestial equator of the Milky Way.
The UN headquarters has its own security force, fire department, and postal administration that even issues its own stamps. The notion of UN headquarters being a city within a city reminds me of how the Vatican is also a city within Rome. I like to refer to this as a nested city or fractal structure. I was fascinated to discover that the Italian government donated an Arnaldo Pomodoro sphere-within-sphere sculpture to the UN in 1991. The golden ball beautifully represents the concept of a city within a city. The internal structures seem to me like buildings and streets on the inner surfaces of the spheres. I'm intrigued because I've seen 3 other similar sculptures in locations significant to my research. Pomodoro made a series of 6 spheres within spheres scattered around the world. Significant sphere-within-sphere locations are the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in D.C., very close to the Capitol building, the De Young Museum in San Francisco, and in the Vatican's courtyard of the Belvedere.
United Nations headquarters, which was built in 1945 and financed largely by John D. Rockefeller. Inside UN headquarters is an ominous meditation room. The custodian of the meditation room is Lucis Trust Company. At one time, the Lucis Trust was located at 666 United Nations Plaza, and was formally named Lucifer Publishing Company. The Rockefeller-funded UN Meditation Room is 33 feet long and 18 feet wide. 18 feet is 6 plus 6 plus 6. The small, dimly lit, windowless room was built in the shape of a pyramid that is laying on its side. At the center of the room is a 4-foot-high, black, casket-shaped stone slab which weighs 6.5 tons and is extremely magnetic and rests on a concrete pillar. The pillar descends beneath the floor into the bedrock and taps into the Earth's hyperdimensional energies to induce a state of altered consciousness. Not far from the meditation room is the United Nations Security Council chamber. This is the emergency room of the UN, where the world leaders meet when there is a threat to peace. They decide the fate of nations. Even though Israel has over 200 uninspected nuclear weapons and has violated dozens of resolutions, no sanctions are ever imposed because of the United States' veto powers. Notice the giant mural that towers over the Security Council room. The central focus of the UN mural is the phoenix bird that has risen. The phoenix bird is a symbol of Lucifer. Egyptians believed that the phoenix symbolized a god who rose to heaven in the form of a morning star like Lucifer after his fire immolation of death and rebirth. Notice that the phoenix bird is not standing above his own ashes. He is standing above his old skin. Like a snake, he has shed his old skin and is revealing himself as God at the center of the mural. At the top left, there is a church steeple without a cross. The missing cross symbolizes the death of Christianity. Below, a woman receives the rays of the sun god, while the man in front of her plays Pan's flute. To their right are two pyramid symbols and people joined together by a long blue serpent-like cloth. Below the risen phoenix, a sword is driven through a dragon beast. This represents the killing of old beliefs and religions that depicted Lucifer as a beast. The New World religion worships him as beautiful. Behind the phoenix, the ghostly figures of the walking dead are stepping into a void. They symbolize depopulation. On the right panel, the pale horse from the book of Revelation is the bringer of death to humanity through weapons, hunger, and disease. The man is releasing him. The chained black man represents slavery, while the top panel of the mural shows a technologically advanced white race who control industry, art, and science. In this post-apocalyptic mural, the military man standing on the tail of the beast represents worldwide military power. He tips his helmet to the elite, who are climbing out from underground cities where they safely hid from the apocalypse. In the main oval panel above the phoenix bird, a woman is holding flowers. She is the bride in a wedding ceremony. Who are these newlyweds that are kneeling submissively beneath the serpent in the overhead tree? Could the newlyweds symbolize William and Kate? The serpent in human form is tempting the little girl Eve, who accepts the apple. On the right side of the top panel, a reptilian green creature with scaly skin is dancing with a naked woman while musicians entertain him. The general message of the UN's Phoenix Rising mural is that humanity is stepping into a new Luciferic reality. Beneath this disturbingly prophetic mural, world leaders make global decisions that affect the lives of nearly 7 billion people. What's hard for most people to grasp is that our elected government leaders are involved in an apocalyptic scheme to enslave the masses under a world government dictatorship. How do these leaders sleep at night? How do they live with themselves?
Careful what you wish for.
Invictus, everywhere you find it associated with bombings, war, and the maiming of human beings. Even the Invictus games themselves are for our wounded warriors, wounded in war, no doubt by bombs. I am unconquered. The statement of defiance, rebellion, witchcraft. The poem itself seems as a declaration by Satan himself. The author, William Ernest Henley, required amputation due to complications arising from tuberculosis. Immediately after the amputation, he was told that his other leg would require a similar procedure. While recovering in the infirmary, he was moved to write the verses that became Invictus.
I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses. Can't define how I be dropping these mockeries. I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses. Can't define how I be dropping these mockeries.
Published in 1888, the last verse in the poem is charged with defiance towards the Christian God of the Bible. It matters not how straight the gate. An obvious reference to, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat.
Allow us to escape hell, globe spinning bomb, pocket full of shells out the sky, golden arms.
So in order to save this planet, I had to trick it with the greatest practical joke in human history.
Really? Please.
Boom. Killing millions. To save billions. A necessary crime.
Obama quoted Nelson Mandela's favourite poem, Invictus, in his speech at Mandela's funeral. It is interesting to note that the Church of Satan also uses Invictus to illustrate its own ideals. In the book, The Church of Satan, A History of the World's Most Notorious Religion, Invictus is used in the book as the opening epigraph. Chapter 6, Satan's Master Plan. LaVey affirms his commitment to destroy Christianity and herd mentality in all forms. It presents the 5-point program of satanic goals to change the world. Chapter 4, What Demons Conjured. Chapter 3, The Modern Prometheus. Chapter 2, Diabolical Consequences. Chapter 1, Let the Games Begin.
Out of the night that covers me,
black as a pit from pole to pole,
I thank whatever gods may be.
for my unconquerable soul.
in the foul clutch of circumstance,
I have not winced, nor cried aloud.
Under the bludgeonings of chance.
My head is bloody,
but unbowed.
beyond this place,
of wrath and tears.
Looms but the horror of the shade.
And yet the menace of the years.
Finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate,
how charged with punishments the scroll.
I am the master of my fate.
I am the captain of my soul.
I am Invictus.
The Invictus Games has shown us what can be achieved when wounded, injured and sick. Servicemen and women rediscover their fighting spirit through sport. In London and again Orlando, we came away moved by the tales of courage that got each competitor through their rehabilitation to the start line of their chosen sport. Tens of thousands of people packed stadiums and millions more watched at home. We were all inspired. We've raised the bar high with each successive games, and I know that Toronto are planning an incredible event when they host the games in September. And I'm happy to say the Invictus Games journey won't end there. But where should the games go next? Well, we had 3 criteria. First, it had to be an iconic city, somewhere known the world over. Second, it needed to be a city with a proud military heritage, which would welcome competitors from all over the world with open arms. And finally, we wanted to go somewhere where they are absolutely sports mad and would really get behind our competitors. It was an easy decision, really. The 2018 Invictus Games are coming to Sydney.
If it's Sydney, mate, you're going to need one of these.
Thanks, mate.
Good decision.
It's all good. Sorry, Dad. Oh, it's Kylie. Hey. Hi, Kylie. Good timing. The 2018 Invictus Games are coming to Sydney. Can I guarantee the Aussies are going to bring it?
Hey Prince Harry, listen, we're stoked the Invictus Games are coming to Sydney, but you don't need to tell the Aussies to bring it. It's guaranteed. No worries.
Sydney, it's on.
Hey everybody, this is ODD. I have something very interesting today that caught my attention. Shout out to Ephesians 6 YouTube channel. I will link the video that inspired this one in the description. So let's jump right in. The term I am seems to be quite powerful and is used more often than any of us even think about. Before researching this, it was the furthest thing from my mind. Just a quick search of I am revealed many things, including a movement that believes the phrase has healing power. Most of you should be familiar with the Invictus Games logo that has a yellow I am in the center. It's pretty hard to miss, but we will get back to that. Is anyone familiar with the pop star will.i.am? Well, this is where I got hooked because I've looked into will.i.am in the past and I found that he is admittedly a futurist, meaning that he is big on the development of future technologies. Not to say that this is inherently bad, but when you understand what I am actually means, then it changes your perspective pretty quickly. So what does I am mean? I asked my brother Nicholson1968, and here's what he had to say. When God revealed his name to Moses, he revealed himself as YHWH, all caps, or Yahweh, which is best translated as I am that I am. Here's the exact verse from Exodus 3:14. And God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So right there, everything began to make sense, and that's what I want to go over. So thanks to Nicholson for that. Without him, I would still be trying to figure this stuff out. Anyway, now I am means God. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. will.i.am owns a company called I Am Plus that sells just a couple of technology-based products so far. One of them is Bluetooth wireless headphones called Buttons, and they also sell a smartwatch called a Dial. When you go to the About section of I Am Plus, it says this. Founded by innovator and global music artist will.i.am, I Am Plus is a Hollywood-based technology company whose mission is to create technology hits that create a ripple effect across pop culture. Our vision is to create a community of creatives and coders, and believe that through music and technology as the first step, we can usher in a powerful new era built on AI. Artificial intelligence, of course. So this is obviously a pro-transhumanism company. Not to mention, H+ is the abbreviation for transhumanism, and there is a magazine called H+, dedicated entirely to transhumanism. So now we are starting to see the connection with will.i.am, his company I.am Plus, and the H Plus transhumanism movement. On the surface level, will.i.am seems like a harmless pop artist that makes music for little kids, but it goes much deeper than that. In fact, when you really pay attention to his music videos, you see a lot of transhumanist symbolism. It even shows in his work with the Black Eyed Peas. And this is all conditioning people to accept the transhumanist agenda, especially young children, because that's pretty much the only people that listen to will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas. Side note, the logo of the new show Westworld looks similar to the will.i.am logo. Not that they were meant to be the same, but being that they are both about transhumanism makes it interesting. Best believe Westworld is playing its role in the agenda. They didn't just turn a 1973 movie into a 2016 television series to be creative. Anyway, let's look at the Invictus Games logo again. I.am, dead smack in the middle. What does it mean? Well, Invictus is a poem from 1888 by William Ernest Henley. Notice his name is will.i.am. Maybe a funny coincidence, but maybe not. You never know. So I won't read the entire poem, but the last lines say, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. It sounds very innocent and inspiring, unless you know what it means. It means bypassing God and cheating death. The elite have been trying to find ways to live forever for a long time now, and they are getting close. I am means hijacking God's creation and changing it so it can defy death, which is not natural. We are meant to live and die. It's as simple as that. I hope you're getting the picture, and we do have a little bit more to go over. Let's start with Beyonce and her album I Am... Sasha Fierce. At first glance, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with transhumanism, but the reason I kept looking into this is because of the dots. I am... Sasha Fierce. The dots tell me that I am is meant to stick out. So I looked around a little, and sure enough, I found an ad for the Beyonce 2009 I Am tour with her portrayed as a cyborg. I also found a picture from a performance where she was dressed like the android from the 1927 movie Metropolis. In fact, Metropolis is one of the very first dystopian movies about transhumanism, and still shows up in a lot of today's pop music. In the movie, there is an inventor who creates a machine man that he considers to be the man of the future. The android has the ability of taking the form of any person, and the inventor says that no one will be able to tell a machine man from a mortal. It blows my mind that the transhumanist dream was already present back in the 1920s. And today we see Beyonce, Kylie Minogue, Janelle Monáe, Christina Aguilera, Lady Gaga, and many more paying homage to the Metropolis, whether they are in the know or not. Speaking of Lady Gaga, she got her name from a 1984 song by Queen called Radio Gaga, where the music video is all about the movie Metropolis. There's even part of the video where Freddie Mercury's face is on the android. I just can't believe how deep this all goes. I Am is much bigger than we all think. Let's check out a company called Humai. This company is dedicated to figuring out how to upload people's consciousness into computers in order to live forever. What's interesting is that Humai backwards says I am. You can't make this stuff up. One of the people that work there is Kate Aquino. She's listed as a futurist, and she's all over the internet under the handle Miss Metaverse, pushing the transhumanist agenda. Her father happens to be Michael Aquino, a satanic high priest and founder of the Temple of Set. But not only that, he was a lieutenant colonel for the United States military at the same time, and the military was fully aware. Yes, those are his actual eyebrows. Here's an old newspaper article about Michael Aquino with the title "Devil Worshipper Holds Sensitive Army Post and Top Brass Says No Problem." Here he is hanging out with Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. Alright, so there you have it. This transhumanism agenda is 100% satanic and Luciferian, and it doesn't matter if you believe in that kind of stuff. The scary thing is that they do believe it, and they are acting on it. One day, everything in this world that was once natural will be synthetic and without a soul.
and His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who can trace his ancestry back to Romania's dark and distant past.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler, you see. So I do have a bit of a stake in the country.
As it were.
Vlad Dracula, otherwise known as Vlad the Impaler, thanks to his favorite method of executing people.
Dracula means son of dragon.
He is also an ancestor of the British royal family.
His father, Vlad II, was a member of a secret society known as the Order of the Dragon.
Vlad Sr. joined the knightly society known as the Order of the Dragon, and upon his induction, he was given the surname Dracul, which is a derivative of Drac, meaning dragon in ancient Romanian. However, in the modern Romanian language, this means devil. His son was given the name for son of Draco, that name being Dracula.
Sons of the Serpent.
Now what you're looking at right here, this is the Supreme Court building in Israel. And as you can see right there over on the left, that's an Illuminati pyramid with the sun symbol or the eye right there at the very top. It's a very common symbol that we all associate with the Illuminati or the beast system, if you will. And here we find it on top of Israel's Supreme Court building. So throughout the years I've been covering the subject of symbolism and the so-called Illuminati and all this. I've covered this for a really long time. I thought it was weird, man. And all the time I've covered it, this one somehow just kind of got past me a little bit. I've covered some things about Israel and the Illuminati, but never really went that deep into it. I've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle I've collected over the years, but this right here really set it in stone for me. So I wanted to do a video and just kind of cover a few things about this. It's a very, very important find. I did a little research online. I found about 4 or 5 years ago, some people were talking about this and putting this out there. So it's not that this is exactly fresh, but I mean, as I said, even when I saw that video from Paul Begley, it was kind of fresh to me. I was like, whoa, and it really kind of struck me. So this was a really important catch as far as I'm concerned, and we definitely need to delve into this a little bit deeper. As I said, I've got some information on this stuff throughout the years, but seeing this video yesterday, it's like, okay, let's go ahead and dive into this some. It's important to understand that the same families who own and control the Federal Reserve and other major financial institutions have their eyes set on the Temple Mount and the holy city of Jerusalem. Just as the scriptures say, there's a man who will be revealed as the Antichrist, and he will sit there before the appearance of the Jewish Messiah, and many will receive him as their Messiah. And speaking of that, I've actually covered Dig, the TV series, in a few other videos, but it actually just concluded recently. But that right there was the whole idea behind this TV series, Dig. It was about establishing the Jewish Messiah. It was about these rituals they were doing at the Temple Mount to usher this in. They were performing these rituals at the temple that would essentially be Armageddon, the end of the world, and that would offer them the chance to bring in this Jewish Messiah. Even in the TV show, it was all about blood sacrifice. They were going to sacrifice this red heifer. As I said, I've covered that as well in some other videos. It's interesting to note, God wouldn't send men to that place anymore to perform blood sacrifices. His son's blood was the perfect sacrifice, so there's no need for us to shed the blood of dumb animals any longer. Yeshua did a perfect work, and remember, it was finished. And what's kind of creepy and freaky about this is I do believe that the Antichrist, whenever it arrives on the national scene, it'll be accepted by most Christians as the Savior who can bring peace and safety, peace and order to the world. So ultimately, Jesus, Yeshua, will enter into that place, the holy mountain of God, and cleanse it. But before that happens, all hell is going to break loose in Jerusalem and the world. So with all that said, I want to explore a little bit more of this symbolism here at the Supreme Court. We'll even go inside some, and I just want to show you a few things. So this is a very, very touchy subject, and before I get into it, I just want to address a few things. It's not all the Jews, all right? I get this message on so many of my videos. It's like, why don't you ever talk about the Jews? It's the Jews, So much hatred for that entire race. Now, I refuse to do that. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that all religions are controlled by the devil. All religions are of the beast system. Islam has the cube.
Many of us know about the cube and understand the symbolism there, the cube going back to Saturn or Saturnalia, or ultimately back to Satan. So a lot of layers to that particular onion right there. But once again, this is a religion that is controlled by the beast, ultimately. Even in America, if you look at most churches, because there's so many different denominations, right? All these different interpretations of God's word and what God's all about. Got all these buildings. But if you look at these buildings, and this is a typical example of most churches in America, if you look at these buildings, if you look right there in the lower left right there, they always have the pyramid with the sun in the middle, the sun symbol. This is why those lines are coming out. It's the illumination. Now, I'm not saying it's a bunch of Illuminati guys in black hoods, built these churches or whatever. This goes back to the connection with Freemasonry and religion. And that's all fine and good, and I wouldn't really have a personal issue with it if it wasn't for the fact that Freemasons take oaths of secrecy. So basically, whatever's happening in the church, or they're saying in the church, or saying in public, could be very different from what they're doing and saying and working on in private. But on the higher level of the pyramid, the higher level of the Freemason structure, it's definitely much darker up there. So these are examples of, once again, what I call that beast system. Remember, it is the enemy that is in control of all of these religions. We don't need religion. This is where it gets tricky. Now, that's not to say that the people that go to church or the people that go to synagogue or go to mosques or whatever are all evil and bad people either. These are the sheep. These are the little lambs. There are millions of people on this planet that are controlled by that beast system through their very religions. And this is regardless of what they hold in their hearts. There are really good people that fall for this stuff. I mean, I see it in my own family. I was one. I was raised in a church myself. I was one. I was raised in a church in the Midwest myself, and I'm glad I was. It gave me a really good understanding of the basics and the fundamentals of religion and whatnot, but it wasn't until I personally left the church and started researching for myself that I really started to connect with the very real spiritual battle that's taking place in our world all around us, and the insane grip that this beast system has on all of religion and on people's hearts and minds. And I'm not saying, don't go to church and this and that or the other. I mean, some people need that community. It's a good place to learn the basics and the fundamentals. I mean, the whole thing, right? It just didn't work for me. And I've been to pretty much every church you can imagine. I've got books on the Book of Mormon. I've got the English version of the Quran, Dianetics from L. Ron Hubbard, you name it. I mean, I've read about everything. I've been to a lot of different churches. I've mentioned in other videos I was actually in a bit of a cult in Maui. And there was no brainwashing. They didn't get me an MK Ultra or anything like that. But the guy that ran it was a charismatic and really, really good with words. And it didn't take long for me to realize this guy was cuckoo. It took a few months. The point is, we've all been deceived. We can all get pulled back into this beast system. So again, this is very touchy stuff. And I don't want anybody thinking this is anti-Semitic. Now, that's a big issue. This is what this Illuminati, if you will, these people at the top of the pyramid, have been hiding behind for decades now. Like, if you ever go against Israel or say anything against Israel, it's like automatically you're an anti-Semite. You hate the Jews. That's all a psyop. It's social engineering. It's just a way to shut you down and keep your mouth shut. So once again, understand, I'm coming from a place of love. I see us all as brothers and sisters in Christ, whether people believe in that or not. That's how I see the world. The Supreme Court building sits on a plot of land next to the Foreign Ministry and the Central Bank of Israel. It's important to note there's a lot of ley lines at play here as well. I'm not going to cover that so much here in this video. There's people out there that do really good work with that. There's a lot of things happening with the ley lines all around the Supreme Court as well. But that being said, it's important to understand that everything about this building has been thought out to the very finest detail. And I see it as absolutely diabolical. This is the devil's plan being put into place before we ever even realize it. The devil, knows its final battle will be here in Jerusalem. Now, if you're not familiar with the Rothschild family, please do a little research there. People always ask, who's the Illuminati? What do they look like? This is one of them. The Rothschild family is one of the Illuminati bloodline families. So it's interesting to note that the engineers who were chosen for this job by the Rothschilds were the grandson and granddaughter of a man who actually worked for Baron Rothschild. You also find their love of numerology all throughout this building and in the building process. It was important to the builder to have everything done according to the correct numbers. It's really interesting because all around the building you'll find these different pathways that you can walk through. And here's one right here. The larger circle you see at the bottom of the picture is actually an inverted cross. And this whole thing was designed for people to walk on. So this is actually a religious emblem placed there designed for people to trample on under their feet. So keeping in mind that we're approaching a one world religion, okay, this is what's coming. This will be the beast system fully revealed, the Antichrist system. So this is why we find all the world religions represented in one way or another. For instance, right here, just beyond that Egyptian obelisk, lies a Muslim gravesite. Another thing you'll find all throughout the building and even out in the courtyard are multiple Hindu altars. And just in case there's still any doubt that the Rothschilds are actually behind this is one of the placards you find on the wall. The founder of the Rothschild dynasty and his 5 sons established all the central banks throughout Europe. The Rothschilds made several stipulations with the Israeli government before building the Supreme Court. And among them were that the Rothschilds would pick the plot of land to build the Supreme Court, they would use their own architects, and no one would ever know how much the building actually cost. It took them 4 years to build this structure with many secrets built into it. As I said, every element of this building was built according to occult knowledge. This right here is a great example. You find it right here that when you first enter the building, you actually find yourself on the journey. This entire journey is intended to bring one from darkness into the light and become an illuminated one. As you see here, when you very first enter the building, it starts off with dim lighting, but as you look up the stairs, you see the bright light that comes from a very large window that looks over parts of Jerusalem. It's also very important to note these steps here. There are 3 sets of 10 steps, making a total of 30. Now, as you ascend these 30 steps, you come from the darkness into the light. And from here you can see the world, or in this case, the city of Jerusalem, like you've never seen it before. It's also worth mentioning that right here on the right side, you'll see the old Jerusalem stones. Some even believe these same stones were used in the Second Temple. And on the other side, you'll see the smooth modern wall. There are 6 lampstands going up that speaks to the man on his journey to gain his knowledge and become illuminated. But once again, I think it's very important to note that the ones who built this building built it to be, in their eyes, perfect and in their order of things, even numerically. And even right here, this is where we start getting a little bit deeper, but when you leave the center courtroom or the main courtroom, the base of the stairs you walk down, as you descend, you'll find the fertility symbol right there in the very center, which is always present in any of these so-called Illuminati structures. It's often kind of hidden, but it's always there. The symbol there in the center represents the woman, and then the, of course, staff or whatever you'd like to call that, going through the center is the penetration. And speaking of that sign of fertility, we find it once again here at Wasilla High School. They actually made the statue a few years back, and this is Sarah Palin's territory right here. Once again, they're telling us that this is all about the, quote, warrior from within. Once again, alluding to the, if you will, female sexual organs, these signs of fertility. These things are often connected as well to the whole idea of goddess worship, and I've covered that in a lot of videos as well. So at this point, the term Illuminati is basically a catch-all phrase for the beast system, or the Antichrist system to come, the New World Order. There's still a lot of people out there that make fun of this symbolism. I see it all the time. I see a lot of really dumbed down things like this. You see this all the time online. Illuminati confirmed, pyramid, right? Well, I understand that. Now, there's different reasons why people do this. Some people just don't understand what's going on. I think other people probably see it, but it scares them. So they don't want to put stuff like this out, laugh at it, make fun of it, right? What these people are representing is this. It's the same symbol that we find on top of the Israeli Supreme Court building. The all-seeing eye with the pyramid, the beast system, the coming Antichrist system of the one world order to follow. If you really want to wake somebody up out there, I think this is a great example right here. You can show them this pyramid with the sun symbol or the all-seeing eye on top of the Israeli Supreme Court. Show them all the other symbolism that's taking place inside this building and around it. Show them all these celebrities that are doing the same symbol. Show them the movies, the advertisements, the TV shows. It's everywhere. This is something I cover on this channel extensively. So once again, folks, this is just another example of that beast system being our reality. The devil controls all of these religions and all of these governments on the entire planet. I know, a lot of people don't want to hear that. There's different names we can give it, you know, the this, the that, the whatever, but ultimately it is what it is. It's going to go down in Jerusalem. All eyes on Jerusalem. So anyway, folks, that's what I've got for you now. I appreciate you watching the video. And as I said, use this information as a tool to help wake up others, all right? Help them to see past this dumb, you know, Illuminati confirmed stuff like that, okay? Show them the facts, show them the truth, and then let them figure out the rest for themselves. Because a lot of people want you to just give them the answers. But oftentimes when you just tell somebody something, they don't totally take it in. So lead them down the path, give them the tools they need, the tools necessary to find out more about this hidden reality right before our very eyes.
That morning, you know, being down here now is different as it looks. I still have those visuals, those images in my mind, in my head.
We're on, as a nation, mission now.
Suicide bombers, you know, it happens in Israel on a daily basis. Those are the things we have to be careful of now. We have to watch for now.
Do you expect a suicide bomb struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center 1 year ago? Hundreds of people have gathered here at Ground Zero to mark the anniversary and what is expected to be, we tell you that the anniversary ceremony will also include several moments of silence, marking the times that the hijacked jets place roses on the site for a flower arrangement that will be turned into.
That's you and I, as the Masonic Illuminati sees us, as mindless apes, bowing and worshipping their demonic black obelisk of Masonic wisdom and Luciferian light. Their cube, so they think, that's going to spark and create this new world order, this Luciferian Antichrist system that's about to come upon the entire world. All symbolized by events taking place in our day and age. 9/11. That was one of their events. The Hilton Hotel, you can see it in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Blatantly, just there it is, put there in the Hilton Hotel in space. They both checked their watches. So they're telling you a little time story right there, how this is all dealing with time. And remember now, the original script was dealing with Saturn, not Jupiter. And Saturn deals with time. When you look at the original Millennium Hotel that was built in front of the Twin Towers, it's an obelisk. They intentionally built it to look like the obelisk in 2001, and they even say so. In the original script, of course, it's a cube that they changed. The logo of the Hilton Hotel is two twin towers within the all-seeing eye. It also is a pause button. A pause button stops time, it freezes time. It's also a 6, which is a 9, It's 666, and it's all in the movie. When you look at another one of their hotels, it shows like a split down the middle, representing like 9/11, Twin Towers falling over. There are 5 pillars on each side, and it's split down the middle, and that's for the center column in all of the designs of Freemasonry. It's all there, represented. The monolith Hilton Hotel, representing the monolith. They even said that that's what it represents, officially. And there it stood in the middle, and it still stands to this day. The monolith, the center invisible pillar cube that survived the disaster. Well, now, I found this footage on YouTube. It was shot by somebody else. And what I found interesting is he shot it from the Hilton Millennium Hotel that's built in the shape of the monolith from 2001. Still standing to this day. And he's shooting outside of the window, looking at the 2 memorials for the Twin Towers and the Freedom Building and some other buildings. I mean, don't you find it strange that this thing survived? I mean, they really planned this out pretty well. They made only what they wanted to come down. The perfect demolition, but that's how they did it. Intentionally making sure that this monolith cube represents their Illuminati wisdom, which is that small center. If you look at Masonic pictures of the 2 columns, you'll see in the middle there's this, there it is, this little smaller column or cube or monolith or obelisk right there. And this is how they brought it in. The Freedom Tower represents this wisdom, this new world order that they want to bring upon all of us. I've read it's supposedly supposed to be 1,776 feet tall. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know how to confirm that, but looking on the internet, this is what I've read, this is what I've seen. Now, if that is the case, they are most definitely not referring to America's birth of 1776, but to the Illuminati's birth of 1776, because that's who they are, and that's who did this. And also, in the same video, look at these memorials to the 2 towers, the 2 twin towers here. Look at those things. They're square holes in the ground. There you got waterfalls running on the sides, and in the center is like another black hole, cube, square, black pit. And it's all just going down and down and down, then it goes into that square pit hole. What kind of memorial is that? They're sending people into the abyss, and also at the same time symbolically representing that they've opened a hole to the abyss. I believe if you go to these places, I'm sure it just sucks energy like a vampire from people's hearts and souls and minds. I'm sure it leaves you with a dead feeling inside. These memorials aren't normal. They're not right. This is evil stuff. There you go. The Freedom Tower. Oh man. It's so obvious what's going on. Very disgusting and evil what these people are doing. Or what these entities are doing, rather, because I think the people are just pawns in the hands of these entities that are returning.
Hey, what's up, guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun channel. New York Times reported Anselm Kiefer sculpture will go up at Rockefeller Center. And it says Anselm Kiefer, the German artist known for his monumental paintings and installations layering history, culture, religion, and mythology, will create his first ever site-specific outdoor public sculpture in the United States this spring at Rockefeller Center in New York. And it says for this sculpture, Mr. Kiefer has cast in lead a colossal open book carried aloft by eagle's wings spanning 30 feet. This will be supported by a 20-foot tall column encircled by a snake with its head erect and tongue hissing at the book. A number of other giant lead books will be strewn on the ground at the base of this theatrical tableau. The piece is obscurely titled Uraeus, referencing the upright form of the Egyptian cobra associated with the serpent goddess Wadjet and used as a symbol of power on the crowns of pharaohs. But the work, evocative of both a lectern and an altar, is open to multiple readings. And it gets into some stuff here, but I found this website here, the Public Art Fund, which is the place that funded this sculpture here. And it says here, the sculpture's cryptic title, Uraeus, refers to the erect shape of the Egyptian cobra associated with the serpent goddess Wadjet and a symbol of power and divine authority. The wings evoke the headdresses and necklaces worn by Egyptian royalty in homage to the vulture goddess Nekhbet. Wadjet and Nekhbet were the guardians of Lower and Upper Egypt, respectively, and following ancient Egyptian unification, became the joint patrons of the civilization. When conceiving this monumental sculpture, Kiefer was recalling Friedrich Nietzsche's famous philosophical work of fiction, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, from 1891, with its ideas of the will of power, the death of God, and the Übermensch, or Superman, as the ultimate aspiration of human beings. Nietzsche described Zarathustra thus, quote, "This book, with the voice bridging centuries, is not only the highest book there is, the book that is truly characterized by the air of the heights. The whole fact of man lies beneath it at a tremendous distance. It is also the deepest born out of the innermost wealth of truth, an inexhaustible well to which no pal descends without coming up again filled with gold and goodness." In Kiefer's imagination, word and image, sacred text, and icon have the power to soar upwards, transcending reality and offering hope of redemption. We've been saying this the whole time. They're looking for redemption without Jesus Christ, redemption through the hands of man, not from God. So this has always been the occult promise. They're at it still. They've been at it for centuries. I think they're getting a lot closer, and that's why they're starting to become even more bold in proclaiming these pursuits out in the public like this, especially at the Rockefeller Center here. Uraeus is both gigantic lectern and altar. You see that, guys? They say it's an altar. They just straight up say this is an altar to an Egyptian goddess. The presence of the snake that insinuates itself at the foot of the column introduces an element of danger and death, as if the monument is being undermined. Yet in more than one mythology, the serpent is a creature of wisdom and secret knowledge. Kiefer's wide-ranging art, which embraces historical memory, politics, religion, and myth, is layered with such multiple meanings and paradoxes. So again, admitting it's an altar, admitting that the serpent actually represents wisdom and secret knowledge, which it does for certain traditions, but that's what they're trying to push for at the Rockefeller Center. And so they're not even shy about this, guys. This is occult architecture being just placed right in front of us. And, you know, those folks who don't know any better, who live in that community or whatever, they're going to celebrate it and be a part of this and whatnot. I think there's a lot of symbolism going on here. And look at this picture here, how it aligns with the building here. I mean, this is all about ascension. This is all about an upward mobility of human beings and, you know, becoming gods. It says here in this Gagosian article, Anselm Kiefer's monumental body of work represents a microcosm of collective memory, visually encapsulating a broad range of cultural, literary, and philosophical allusions from the Old and New Testament, Kabbalah mysticism, Norse mythology, and Wagner's Ring Cycle to the poetry of Ingeborg Bachmann and Paul Celan. And of course, the idea of a serpent going up the staff represents the Kundalini, spiritual ascension into the crown chakra, and then, you know, you reach enlightenment. This sort of practice and teaching is pretty much the religion of the elite, so it's no surprise here that they're representing this here. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Really, the New Age movement is an old philosophical movement, but I feel like even though we've been talking about it and exposing a lot of it for years here, we have to keep doing it because, again, it really truly is the religion of a lot of these folks in the elite, and they do push that ideology upon the masses. So stay watchful, stay vigilant, be sober-minded. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.
Calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
Ka! It's you!
Yes, man cub. So nice to see you again.
Oh, go away. Leave me alone.
Let me look at you. You don't want me to look at you? Then you look at me.
No, sir. I know what you're trying to do, Ka.
You do? I mean, you don't trust me.
No.
Then there's nothing I can do to help.
You want to help me?
Certainly.
Okay. So let's dedicate this to General Kelly, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents for doing such an incredible job. Right? This was written by Al Wilson a long time ago. And I thought of it having to do with our borders and people coming in. And we know what we're going to have. We're going to have problems. We have to very, very carefully vet. We have to be smart. We have to be vigilant. So here it is, the snake. It's called the snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you." the border. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Does that explain it, folks? Does that explain it?
Trust in me.